This is part 3 of Ryan's series for success. Today, we're talking about confidence, and we're going even deeper into the exact details of how to build permanent and unshakable confidence. Today, we're going to focus on self-efficacy and small wins and how this can lead to overall momentum for success. Self-efficacy is your ability to believe that you can succeed in specific situations, and we'll come back to why that's so important. But just from my personal experience, I've found that confidence in your ability to believe that you can succeed in certain situations is the most important thing for success. And it's not just because you're thinking in a certain way, it's because when you have these things, you typically sabotage yourself much less. You have much less negative thinking in your head that is constantly just draining you. And as a result, you tend to be able to actually focus more on what you need to do without having all this negative thoughts running around your head. But really, let's focus first on small wins, because I've talked about this a lot. Confidence is not something you can build just from changing the way you think. It really is action driven. And this is why that I've seen from my personal experience doing different actions and eventually getting at least one of them to lead to a minor success is the way to actually build confidence instead of just focusing on what mindset framework do I use. That's why I'm going to talk about small wins, because small wins are the key to building this initial confidence. I understand that you may not be able to do a huge win right now or have a huge success because of where you're at. You may be at very low confidence levels. You may not really believe in yourself very much. But this is why we need to start to turn around that narrative. We need to first focus on not going from 0 to 100. We need to actually just first start from going to 0 to 1 and then 1 to 2, and then eventually you will get there. This is something so true of anything in success, is that it takes a long time, and it starts with small things first, and it gradually gets more and more momentum built, and you eventually become, this really prominent, successful figure, So small wins are the key, and this happens from setting goals. And I want you to set goals not where at the level you can't attain them, but somewhere that's within reach and that you know you can comfortably achieve. I know you may be like, Ryan, I thought you always want us to stretch, but that's in different situations. You have to realize that success requires a lot of different thinking in different situations. Right now, we're trying to build your confidence, okay? We're not trying to overstretch ourselves. If you start with 0 confidence, I don't want you trying to attack this huge goal, because it's gonna cripple your confidence even more. I want you to take, that 10% step up and then keep stacking those small wins. So for example, if we're going back to our public speaking analogy we've been using, if you are afraid of public speaking and you can't talk in front of, 30 people, let's start with maybe 10 people or maybe 5 people, or maybe just give a 1-minute speech, or even just a maybe 5-second speech. Just say something, maybe just introduce somebody in front of a group of people, maybe even just a group of your friends, something like that. You got to start small so then you can stack these small wins. Yes, you may still fail in those small situations, but the chance that you succeed will be much larger. And that's the most important thing, because if I do 5 small presentations in front of a group of people, the chance that I can have one successful one is much greater than if I do 5 huge presentations in front of 100 people, because I might be so stressed out, I might have nerves, I might have all these issues. So what we do, we start with that small win, because once you get that, you have to change your mindset. Forget about scale, forget about big, small wins, whatever. Just focus only on wins. Stack your wins. How many successes, even if it's super small, how many successes can you just put in your bag? That's really what we're trying to do here. And we're trying to have more successes than failures. Yes, your successes might be completely outweighed by your failures, because your successes are so small and your failures are so huge. But we're trying to build your confidence right now, so we're going to focus on these small successes to start to feed the engine. Right? When you're feeding an engine, you can't just give it all this stuff at one time, right? You got to give it slowly, piece by piece, and it starts to warm up. And then eventually you get momentum and move forward. So that's why these small wins that you get from doing certain things, like for a habit, right? That small win of you actually breaking the habit just one time. Let's say it's a bad habit. You broke the habit one time, you actually did something good, and you started to try to build your good habit. That's the first step towards making a brand new habit. It's not completely stopping that habit for, as many days as you possibly can in one try. That's going to be too hard to try to break a bad habit. The key is, can I do more small wins over time and focus on building that kind of small list of wins and just repeat that again and again? Because what's going to happen is they're not going to stay small. You'll have a small win, a small win, a small win, and because you consistently get small wins, you'll start to build up and you'll have more confidence because you've seen that, hey, I can win. It doesn't matter about the size, I can win something. And that will start to turn your confidence from low and start to raise it and allow you to be more ambitious and be like, if I did this, if I talked in front of 5 people, maybe I can talk in front of 7 people. And then from there, if you can eventually get some wins, you're like, okay, I could talk in front of 7 people now. What if I can talk in front of 10 people? And it's just a very step-by-step game. But to be honest, everybody wants to believe that if they just flip their mindset, if they just think with this new framework, if they have this idea, if they can just do that, it will be completely fixed. That's not how it works. It takes work, it takes energy, it takes action to do these things, to change things. And it also does take failure to some extent, because when you first start out, you are not going to be perfect with public speaking in front of even just a group of 5 people. And so that's why it's going to take a couple repetitions. But this is assuming that you put in those repetitions, you try to prepare, you try to grow from each of them and try to learn, and then you start to stack these small wins, and then you start to elevate and reach new levels and keep stacking wins there. And that begins to build your upward momentum, which eventually leads to the golden star of self-efficacy. The belief that you can figure out things and become successful even in situations that you don't have any experience with. That is really what I call self-efficacy, and that's the most important thing, because in life there are so many unknowns. There's most situations you enter, you will not be adequately prepared. But having this belief and also the skills, which are actually will build this belief, right? You can't just build this belief out of nothing. You need to have some skill set, some track record of failures, and then eventually getting to a win that leads you to believe that you can actually become successful in different situations. And that's why this all hinges on the small wins that I've been talking about. But this self-efficacy, that idea that you can succeed, is so refreshing, not because it's just like delusional, it's because it's built off of evidence, and it's a really strong thing to just ward off a lot of negative thinking that happens. I think that a lot of people attribute their success to this, but they forget to realize that it's because of the fact that they tend to have less negative thinking overall, because they believe they can do it. Like they believe they can do something more than they believe that they can't do it. They believe they can achieve success more than they believe they will fail. And because they don't believe they'll fail that much, they're not focused on, oh, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail. I guarantee you, next time you try to do something hard, tell yourself, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail. Say it 10 times and you're probably just gonna fail. That's what happens. So by removing the negativity out of our head and focusing more on like the sun, right? I was like, there's a lot, that's a big analogy. People say just like turn your face towards the sun. And I agree with that, but I agree with that to the extent that it's built off of action and proof. You can't just delusionally say, oh, everything in my life is going terribly, but I'm just gonna ignore it and look at like the bright side. No. We need to have action backing this up. And that comes back to the small wins leading to that self-efficacy. But I hope this was helpful. I'm really trying to break down all the minute details that I think most people just completely miss with how to build confidence. And if you guys have any questions, put them in the comment sections below. Make sure you guys subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.